Good afternoon, everybody. My presentation and Sara's presentation is called Graduates Working Abroad, a topic which will figure largely in the following roundtable. Now, this is my schedule. First of all, I'm going to contextualize the phenomenon of graduates who decide to work abroad, and then I'm going to describe the community or population that was assessed in the AlmaLaurea ad hoc survey, graduates working abroad, and then I'm going to further go into specific topics like the advantages, but also the obstacles and the future prospects for graduates working abroad. And finally, a very interesting analysis of the answers given by graduates working abroad and some of the free answers with regard to the advantages of working abroad and suggestions for Italy to better exploit its graduates. Now, the context. Now, here we're talking about graduates who decide to go outside of Italy. Obviously, there are positive implications in this behavior. Economic theory teaches us, in fact, that there are advantages from a systemic point of view, and also the individual can glean advantages from this. They can get relational soft skills, but also hard skills by working abroad that they can use very well once they decide to come back. There are downsides in terms of the failure to have virtually to have a return on investment, and also the graduate working abroad who loses contact and a in-depth knowledge of his country of origin. Perhaps all these aspects will be gone into in greater detail in the round table. Now, let's have a look in terms of contextualization. These are ISTAT data regarding international migration of Italians, and here we can see data specifically on graduates of at least 25 in 2012. You can see 14,527 graduates left the country, 27.6% of the total of those who left for abroad. 5,697 came back. The balance is 8,830. We don't know why they left. If the prevalent reason is that of going to take a job, but it's highly likely that it is. And some people could say that, in fact, these are relatively low figures. But nonetheless, we can put this into a further time frame. And in the last 10 years, the graduates who have come back to Italy are, in fact, flat, I beg your pardon, stabilized 5,000 a year. And those who have left the country have, in fact, seen a positive, have had success. And so, in fact, they are really coming back less. And this from 2002. Now let's just look at AlmaLaurea data. Now you can see the employment rates of those employed abroad compared to total employment rates. Here too we have a positive trend. If we look at 2008, for example, the cohort of 2008 graduates, we see how with time it is more and more probable that the graduate will go abroad. So we go from and up to 3.5 after 5 years. Now we're going to look at this 5.3% of those who have followed the single course specialist degree, single cycle, those that have either completed the 3+2 or they have done the pure single cycle of 5 or 6 years. So with the logistic regression model, we can identify the characteristics of the graduates that show that they are more likely to be employed abroad than in Italy. And we can see that certain types of degree disciplines are more likely to choose to work abroad than others. It's very frequent among, or more frequent among men. It's more frequent among those who have already been abroad during their university career, especially on the Erasmus program. They study more likely in the north. They have high marks in their studies, so they are good students. They do not continue work that they had before graduating, or they at least start working only after the graduating. They're more willing to transfer and more willing to work in a European country of country outside of Europe, and also they tend to be good students who, in their choice of study and in their work aspirations and hopes, already tend to be more inclined to be willing to go abroad. What are the variables that don't have a significant effect on the likelihood of a graduate going abroad to work? I just look at the last one, the social class, and whether the parents have a degree or not. This is on this list, but in fact, it is rather misleading by way of a variable, because in fact there's an increase in the probability of studying abroad the higher the educational qualifications of the parents. We are not including this in the model because its effect is mediated by the fact that you have students who have been on an Erasmus program, or who have high marks, or who come from fairly high social backgrounds. All these are elements which make it more likely for the graduate to work abroad. Now here let's look at this population, 1,522 graduates who, after 5 years, proved to be working abroad, only Italian nationals. They were all asked to answer an online questionnaire, more than about half accepted, and then we weighed these data so that we respected the total population, both of the study area and of the macro area in which the particular university has been placed. Let's see some preliminary results. Type of work being executed. The first two lines are the most important. You can see that overall there is a lower influence of work or stable work. But this is especially due to the fact that in abroad, in other new countries other than Italy, it is highly unlikely that the graduate will be self-employed. But it's much more likely for that person to have a permanent job. And we'll see this further on. Now, you see that there is a higher number of people working abroad that have a non-standard job. And this might probably be due to the participation in medium-term projects, for example. You can see that there are appreciable differences in the various areas. In architecture and engineering, we see a large number of permanent job holders, and in the science area, there is a large number that does non-standard work. Also, men have more stable positions than women, and there is a gender difference, in fact, here that we will be seeing also in other aspects. Average net earnings at 5 years by gender and by study area. First of all, let's look at those who work abroad and work in Italy. Those that work in Italy and those that work abroad. Those who work abroad earn about 70% more than those that work in Italy. The area has to be particularly looked at, the European country in question, and the cost of life and living in the various countries are all mitigating factors, and therefore it's not very easy to make a straight comparison. We see that architecture and engineering graduates are most favored here, less so in the humanities. But nonetheless, even in graduates in these areas have a higher wage than similar graduates who have remained in Italy. There is a very large disconnect between men and women. Men earn 24% more than women. In Italy, it's 28% difference. There is a slight lessening of this gender gap, in other words, if they go abroad, but it still remains. Obviously, you have to bear in mind that in that slide that we just put up, we have all the graduates, regardless of what sort of job they hold, if it's part-time or whatever. Here we have more homogeneous data. In other words, only graduates who started working after graduation and only graduates who are working full-time are considered here. So we can see again, architecture and engineering are the two sectors that are at highest level, and humanities lowest. And here we have a slightly lesser difference. It's around 18% that men earn more than women, especially in architecture and engineering. Now, Ms. Binassi is going to take the floor, and she will continue the presentation. Thank you, Professor Gasperoni. I'm going to go into a further in-depth analysis, and I'd like to present what we did in terms of the questionnaire. Now, where do people go? We see that the highest percentage stays in Europe. Then there's Europe, America, and then elsewhere. Now, what European countries are most attractive to the graduates? 16.5% in the UK, followed by France, 14.5%, Germany and Switzerland with 12%, then Belgium and Spain. Obviously, these are the main flows. There are other graduates who have gone to Sweden, Norway, Luxembourg as well, Austria, and in the rest of Europe. Very often we noted these graduates end up by working in a country where they had some experience because they went on an Erasmus program or they've had some work experience before. Where do these graduates come from? To start off with, the highest number come from graduates living in the north who have studied in the north. That's 57%. And those that lived in the south and went to the north to study, 11% of these went abroad. And those come from the center of Italy and studied in the center of Italy, 12. So those resident and studying in the south, 10%. So this is the breakdown. What was the reason that pushed them to go abroad? We can see the lack of job opportunities was the most indicated, 38%. But not only the lack of job opportunities, but also many people said that they had received a more attractive offering of work, and this was offering of work abroad was interesting, they said, in terms of the skills which are most appreciated, the wage, and also the career prospects. Some people went abroad for study, Erasmus, or other European experiences. And for personal or family reasons, 14.7% went for personal reasons, and also then 6.8% went abroad because an Italian or a company in Italy asked them to do so. In the various study areas, these are the main flows. Architecture and engineering are the areas which in fact produces most graduates who go abroad because a company asked them to do so. Also in science, there's a great call for graduates here, and 29.4% in fact went abroad because they were sought by research bodies and so on. And then the humanities, this is the area that indicated lack of job opportunities in Italy, and many also in this area went abroad because of for study purposes, and they went abroad to perhaps get further training and then stayed. Now, it's more likely to be men than women to be asked to go abroad by the companies, and you can see the figures. It's 37 compared to 22 women. Women go abroad more for personal reasons, to follow their partner or to go to live with a family member. The main motivation for going abroad at 5 years linked to the geographical area of the university. You can see 63.0% from south in the islands declared that there were no job opportunities where they lived. It's the highest number. But again, we asked the graduates whether at the beginning they found any obstacle or difficulty as a result of their transfer. More than 1/3 didn't find any limitations. We see that some gave indications, for example, different styles of life or not full grasp of the language and so on. From an economic, bureaucratic, and technical skills point of view, these were mentioned as well in descending order. The technical skill and across-the-board skills, in fact, come bottom of the scale. This shows that the Italian technical graduates, the technical skill is appreciated, and they don't seem to have many problems when they do go abroad. Now, we look at the various study areas. We can see once again that architecture and engineering have greater skills and competence, whereas the humanities, in fact, feel more the lack of technical skills. Now, where do these graduates work? What sort of company do they work in? Generally, we see that more than one-third are employed by foreign companies, and then they are also employed in multinationals and also in multinational institutions. Now let's have a look at the main flows vis-a-vis the study areas. 43% in architecture and in engineering, in multinationals, economic, social areas. 19.7% are engaged in international institutions. Scientific area, they're mostly engaged in university or research centers. Humanities, most employment in foreign companies, not always linked to the skills that they achieved at university. Women are mostly in multinational countries, and also there's a large percentage working in international institutions. The graduates were asked to compare their skills with the skills of their foreign colleagues, whereas 49% said that their skills were equivalent. We see a very high percent, 42.2%, who thought they were better prepared than their foreign counterparts. In fact, these people had, in fact, to the tune of 74.4%, had carried out post-grad training, and therefore they consider themselves as more skilled, and they probably are. Now, what their future prospects was another question. We asked them whether in the next 5 years they thought they would come back to Italy. The answer is very negative. We see 42.2% say that it's highly unlikely that they'll be able to come back for work purposes. Not very probable, 28%, highly probable, 11.1%, 18.5%, in fact, don't really know what they are going to do. They're still very undecided, and they don't really know whether Italy can offer similar job opportunities. Asked whether they would go back and could do it again, would they make the same decision? 83.8% say yes. And those who answered more yes than no, we see that 98% in fact would not go back over their decision. Now let's look at two answers to open questions. We received very interesting answers. One was on the advantages of working abroad and proposals for Italy as how it could stop the brain drain. Now, we found a series of lemma or words, basic words, and also we looked at verbs as well to pick up these lemmas, and we compared these, and this is the sort of map that we got. And meritocracy is the lemma that in fact came up most. Working abroad, in fact, is something which allows you to make headway on a meritocratic point of view, a basis. Now, first of all, a greater or better meritocracy, and also a stipend which is more in tune with the skills that they have. Also, meritocracy can also mean opportunity for growth, a career path, and especially personal growth as well. Meritocracy also from the point of view of being able, or people that in abroad being willing to invest in young people. Now, this is one of the references. It says that there is a flexibility and openness in accepting school qualifications, that work is dynamic, and it's very much more meritocratic, and the working environment is better. And then also the other thing and lemma that we brought up, thanks to this retrieval of words, was career. Again, career in the terms of higher competence and being merit-based, career in the sense of opportunities offered, career also in the sense of the possibility of remaining in the academic university world without fear of losing a job. Career also in terms of compensation or wage, which was in line with cost of living, and also the possibility of having a stable work contract as well was also another positive aspect that was picked up by the lemma career. Stability was another keyword confirmed here. Stability in the sense of the contract offered. There were more permanent contracts available, better and larger, greater stability, and also stability from the economic and compensation point of view. And also something which came up less often, but it was said that abroad, in fact, the job and the graduate skills were given greater dignity and were more seriously considered. We also asked these graduates what Italy could do to stop the brain drain. And the first word that came out was investment, as you can see, in university education and so on, in young people, investing also to develop companies to allow them to be able to offer jobs for graduates, and investment to be able to guarantee excellence. Therefore, invest more funds in the university and research. Another important word was bureaucracy. The graduates, for example, talked about simplification, making bureaucracy more flexible, reducing costs, encourage startups, but at the same time to reduce the taxes for those working self-employed or for companies. And the last lemma, very vague, if you like, or generic, is system. Again, the system, they say, should be meritocratic, basic, and be based on merit. System in the terms of the university, the work, and also young people should be part of this basic system. So, concluding what we've seen from this analysis and this survey, we have seen an increase in the number of people going abroad to work, and there is a negative dynamic of return. In other words, there's not much brain circulation. Less people actually come back than before. And this is something we have to obviate. The lack of opportunity for jobs in Italy was the keenest thing mentioned. But the good thing is that our well-prepared, skilled graduates do get offers of jobs from abroad. Now, also, there's an advantage, some disadvantage in working abroad. There is a wage gap and inadequate linguistic skills and adapting to different lifestyles. These are one of the downsides. Also, the graduates, by and large, are very happy with having taken the decision to go abroad. The advantages of working abroad, meritocracy, career instability, and what Italy can do. Young people should be enhanced in Italy. More investment, simplification of bureaucracy should be forthcoming if Italy is to retain its brains.